of David. Keep looking. Can you see it? Behind the star is that street that I was telling you. It's a shortcut to come here. Leaving the hotel left and then right, and you come here. Well, the real name of this square is Peter the Fourth, but I believe if you ask a local, where is Peter the Fourth Square? Nobody knows, because we don't call it like that. We call it Rocio. So every each of the streets ahead of us leads you to the riverfront, to Commercial Square. We are going around. Don't get seasick with our sidewalks. Here they represent waves. They can be a little tricky. You can be slippery if they are wet, but we are very proud of them. We have these sidewalks since the beginning of the 1800s. So we're going around the square. To your right hand side, you can see at the top of the hill a church in ruins, a metal structure that is a public transport, an elevator from 1902. So if you want to go to the upper quarter, you use the elevator as a public transport. Although if you buy the ticket inside, it's a tourist trap. They make you pay €5.20 to be stuck inside the box without any view, just to go up. And then that ticket includes coming down. Okay. But if you have like a ticket that you can buy in the metro stations, you can go up and down with the same ticket and cost you €1.85. Okay. Big lines because tourists think it's interesting to be stuck in the box. The idea, if you keep looking to your left, is to go up, and there's a passage connecting to that neighborhood. Now, that church in ruins, we left it like that. What happened? 1st of November 1755, 9:30 in the morning, All Saints Day. Everybody was at a mass for praying when suddenly the earth started to shake. A huge earthquake. We think it was around 9 in Richter scale. So those who survived the earthquake, they start running towards the river, afraid that replicas could occur. Unfortunately, the earthquake happened at the ocean, so a tide wave, a kind of a tsunami came. So those who escaped the earthquake were killed by the tide wave. And then the candles in the churches provoke fires. Lisbon burned for 1 week. 1/3 of the population of the city died, around 30,000 inhabitants, and 2/3 of the city were destroyed. So everything you see around is a reconstruction after the 1755. Look to your left hand side as we move forward, coming up at 11 o'clock. We have what used to be the central railway station. Today is just for commuter trains. We called Rocio train station, in an eclectic style from the 1800s that we call the neo-manual line. Attached to the station, here to the left, you have the first 5-star hotel of Lisbon from 1892, the Avenida Palace, and now another square of the city center that we called Restauradores. Between 1580 and 1640, Portugal was ruled by Spain. So 1st of December of 1640, we are going to profit that the Catalans are doing a revolution in Barcelona. Spain sends all the troops there, and we going to profit that to kick the Spanish out, to choose the 8th Duke of Braganza to become our king, and we restored our monarchy. So that's the meaning of this obelisk. The dates on the obelisks means the different battles that occurred for over 28 years till we sign our freedom from Spain. So Restauradores, the Restoration Square. To the right in the corner you have the Hard Rock Cafe, and to the left another public transport, funicular. This was the first one that we had in Lisbon. We still have 3 active funiculars. Funicular is like a cable car. One goes up, one comes down. Okay? Public transport, you can buy the ticket inside, and this will take you to Bairro Alto, the neighborhood where you're going tonight for the Fado. So look there to the left, 1886, Gloria. Next street to the right, another one to go up to the hills to the right. In fact, here in the city center we have 7 hills. This one was built upon 7 hills. This one is called Lavra. Keep looking to the right, there at the end. So now we are going up the main boulevard of Lisbon. We call it Liberdade. Look at the sidewalks. Like I said before, we are very proud of them. Different patterns. Like I said, this started in the early 1800s. The Italians had discovered the ruins of Pompeii, and we decided to imitate the Roman mosaics with our sidewalks. Limestone, the white, and basalt, the black one. Stone against stone, no concrete. Look to the left, memorial to those who died in the First World War that Portugal participated against Germany. So like I said, we love our sidewalks, and when you are walking on this avenue, it's like if you are walking on open heart. Okay. Well, this avenue is the main boulevard of the city. We don't have a lot of people living here. If you look to the ground floors, mainly we have the best fashion stores. Like all European cities, we have all these brands all together. Don't think they are cheaper than US, because we have a tax here in Europe that we call VAT, in Portuguese IVA, and it's 23%. So for instance, everything you buy in these shops, you are paying 23% over what you pay in the US. I don't think it's worth it, but it's your money. If you want to spend money, this is the right spot. I don't need to go far to spend it. So like I said, the ground floors, we have fashion stores, and most part of the buildings are occupied by offices. It's like if you have a company, to have the address of this avenue gives a lot of prestige to the company. Besides that, the rest of the buildings are also 4- and 5-star hotels, like the one here to the left at Tivoli. It was funny, during Second World War, Portugal was neutral, so Lisbon became a city of spies. Remember down where the train station was, there was the first 5-star, that was where the German spies were. This hotel here, the Tivoli, that's where the British spies were. And if you go up the hill to the roundabout, to the right, you used to have another hotel, the Avis Hotel, where the Americans were. So a couple of yards in between each other, we have all the nationalities here. And then they all met at Estoril. That's for our optional tour. We're going to pass through there. That's the birthplace of the most known spy in the world, 007. That's a story for the other tour. Okay. So we continue going up the avenue, and little by little we are approaching a roundabout where you can see at the top of a column a man with a lion. That's the Marquis of Pombal. His name was Sebastião José de Carvalho e Melo. He was the prime minister of our king. He started to rule in 1750, and he ruled till the death of the king, 1777. So he was the one in charge when the earthquake happened. The king was in panic, did not know what to do. So simply told to the king, what we have to do now, sir, is to bury the dead and feed the living. And in a very practical way, he started rebuilding the city. So from scratch, he decided to build a modern city for the time with parallel and perpendicular avenues. So everything was planified before the reconstruction. So we choose an architect that had built an aqueduct here in Lisbon some years before, and the aqueduct survived the earthquake. So we thought, if he builds that and survived, maybe it's a good one. So he's going to be the one in charge, Carlos Mardel. And he rebuilt all the neighborhood where your hotel has. So that's why in 1936 we decided to add a statue here to the roundabout. So the lion means power. And down below you have different sculptures representing all the reforms that the Marquis did it after. For instance, you can see guys carrying grapes on their back on baskets. And that's because it demarcated the first wine region in the world, the Douro Valley in the north, near Porto, where we produce our famous port wine. So first wine region demarcated in the world. Behind the statue, you have a neoclassical building representing Coimbra's University. It did the reform of the university too. He implemented the first industries in the city. He was a very important man for the time. Now, to your left, we have a park right here in the center of the city. So we're going around so that you can have the view from the upper part of the park towards downtown. We are entering here an avenue called Fontes Pereira de Melo. This was one of the first business quarters of Lisbon. So most part of these buildings are offices. It's not a residential area. And now we are going to turn to the left. So for you to understand my city, where your hotel is, it's the old town. Everything started with the castle. Then we built a residential quarter from the castle to the river. Okay, we call it Alfama, still the old district in the city. Those houses that you see from your hotel till the castle, that became the Moorish quarter. Once the city was conquered, the Moors could not live inside the walls anymore. Then, little by little, the city started to spread along the river. So, closer you are to the river, older is the city. And in the end of the 1800s, that's when we started to expand the city to the north. So, all these streets, the one we are, the one to the left that we're going up now, this is part of the expansion of the city. So we already designed this city, this modern city of the 1800s, 1900s, like a grid, parallel, perpendicular avenues, and we decided to call it the New Avenues of Lisbon. Although they have more than 100 years old, we continue to call this area the New Avenues of the city. As we turned, you just saw on the right hand side a palace from the 1700s, Sotomayor. This is where people come for visa. So that's why you see so many people doing the line. It's Portugal, nothing starts before 9. So they are doing a line waiting for the opening hour. Now, just to orientate you, we are going up parallel to the park. The park is there to your left. I would like your attention to the lightning posts you have on both sides of the street. As we move up, you will see a little yellow boat at the top with two birds, one on each side. Those on the left, look to the left hand side of the bus. You will see the lightning post with the boat. Those on the right, you look to the right hand side. That boat with the two birds, there are two crows. That's the symbol of my city.
Yeah.
When our first king was conquering the city and he made the siege, he was settled exactly where your hotel is. He made a vow. If he would conquer the city, he would send an expedition south to the Algarve to rescue the relics of a saint, Saint Vincent. And he did it. He conquered the city, he sent an expedition to the Moorish territory. They rescue his mortal remains. And when the relics were arriving to Lisbon, a bunch of crows came with the ship. So the boat with the two crows became the symbol of my city. And that's why on the lightning posts everywhere, you're in downtown area, you can see the little boat with the two crows. Well, we say those were the mortal remains of Saint Vincent. If you cross the border and you go to Spain, they say, no way. They have them in Valencia, in Spain. Talking about Spain, here to your left you have a Spanish department store, El Corte Inglés. Well, Portugal, life starts at 9, but in Spain, never before 10. So only at 10 o'clock we'll get open. You're going with your tour to Spain, you will understand that. They stay awake till later, so they start life later in the morning. So department store El Corte Inglés, although it's Spanish, we have two in Portugal. Are very, very famous in Spain. In Portugal, we prefer shopping malls than department stores. But you know, in Spain, if you are looking for something from Spain, and if you don't find on those department stores, according to the Spanish, it's because it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
So we are going around the department store so that we can access the top of Park Edward VII, so that you can understand better my city from that viewpoint. Before that boulevard that we used to come up, that used to exist there a garden. We called it the public promenade. Palaces all up the avenue, and that place was a place to walk, to see and be seen. When we decided to open the boulevard to connect the downtown area to this new part of the city, the park disappeared. This was what was left. In 1903, Edward VII of England visited Lisbon. So we decided to give his name to the park that is on your left-hand side. The gardens on the right, we gave another name, Amalia Rodrigues Gardens, the name of our fado singer that died in 1999. Look here to your right, a statue of maternity made by a Colombian artist that died last year, Otero. So Diogo is going to stop the bus. We are not getting out, but from the left-hand side you can have a nice view over the city center. Can you see, when you are facing down to the left, trees on the top of the hill? That's the hill near your hotel, where the castle is. Then you see all the flat area of downtown that we call Baixa. And to the right-hand side you have Bairro Alto, where you're going with John tonight for the Fado show. And you see the river, the Tejo River. From your hotel, if you leave the hotel, left, straight in line, I would say 15 minutes walking slow, you are at the riverfront. I don't know, at what time are you leaving for the Fado? 6:30, okay? We should arrive here, even those who are doing the optional tour, around 4:30. So you have the opportunity, if you have a quick shower and you change quickly, you can still go to the riverfront, have a pint and come back. Okay, Diogo, let's go. There's a little mist coming from the ocean. The ocean is facing us, okay? So we are not far from the mouth of the river. From the Beleme section, that will be our first stop. You will be able to see the mouth of the river. And usually we have this mist coming from the river. In fact, in 1580, we lost our independence to Spain because a king died, King Sebastian. Well, he died in Morocco fighting the Moors. He had this idea of invading Morocco, and he died in a battle on Kasr Kibir in 1578. When they brought his body, you have to imagine this was summer, took a couple of months to the mortal remains to arrive, it was all swallowed. So people did not recognize him as the king. And so there was this myth that the king didn't die, and on a misty morning he would arrive by boat and liberate Portugal from Spain. So this is all about us, Portuguese. We are very nostalgic people. We are still waiting for King Sebastian to arrive on the foggy morning. Okay, so we are coming down the park, lots of sycamore trees. The trees now, we call them the jacaranda trees. They came from South America, from Brazil. We have lots of them through town. And during end of May, beginning of June, they are all blossom. So Lisbon becomes a purple city. We have people that come from all the country to Lisbon just to see the jacaranda blossom. So Park Edward VII to our left. It's very nice to have. Lisbon is a very green city. We have lots of little parks, and the big one, that's the lung of the city, with a size of 150 football fields, to give you the idea. And it's a city open to the river, and well, we have most part of the day is this blue sky. So we have a peculiar light here in the city. I'm a local, I don't notice that much, I'm so used to it. But people that come from abroad, that's something that they tell me all the time, the brightness of my city. Tomorrow you are going to start going north. You are going to Porto. Porto, well, the weather is completely different. It's a more Atlantic weather than Mediterranean like they have here. And the stone, here we have limestone, it's a bright stone. In Porto you have granite, gray. So it's a big contrast between the two big cities of Portugal. You'll see it tomorrow. Okay, we are entering again at the roundabout. We love these roundabouts all around the city. We love them so much that here we have two in one. I don't know if you noticed, when we were coming up, we took the inside roundabout, and now we are taking the outside roundabout. Why two in one? We used to have a single roundabout, 6 lanes, traffic accidents every single day. Okay. So we decided to make two. The inside roundabout only gives you access to the main avenues, 3 main avenues, while the outside one, where we are now, gives you access to all. I remember the first time I was arriving to Lisbon. I was coming from Madrid with a group, and suddenly they inaugurated the roundabouts, and I had no clue which one to take. But once you get used to, works perfectly. So once you get used, works perfectly. When you are arriving, you know, you want to take a secondary avenue, you take the outside one. Takes more time, more traffic lights. If you want to take one of the 3 main ones, you take the inside one. But if you don't know, it's quite weird. But we love roundabouts in Portugal. We have towns with so many roundabouts. Every 100 meters, there's one. So we are at the outside one. We are going around, and now we are going to start doing a little tour through the hills of the city, so that you have this idea of the up and down. We don't know, we don't need to go to a gym. If you just need to walk around, and you are in shape, because it's all up and down.
Can I ask you quickly?
Of course.
Approximately how many people live in Lisbon City?
Okay, the city itself, we have around 600,000 inhabitants.
Thank you.
The metropolitan area, we are 2.8 million. That means much more people live outside than inside. And one of the reasons is the price. It's quite expensive. If you go back one generation, well, when I got married, I was able to buy an old apartment and remodelish it. And I lived here for quite a while. My kids, 16, I needed something bigger. And I was fed up of parking the car in the street, finding a spot to park. So we decided to buy something bigger. And we realized we could not afford anymore to buy here. So we moved to the outskirts. Almost 1 year ago, we moved out. When we buy a house here, or an apartment, mainly apartments, I would say 99% of the people live in condos. We pay per square meter. 1 square meter for the American is like 9 square feet. Okay, and the average price in Lisbon, that means can be higher or a little lower depending on the location. It's around 6,000 euros for 1 square feet. So 9 square feet or 1 square meter. So if you have 6,000 euros, you can sleep vertical. Okay? We have a little square to sleep over. So means that then depends of the location. If it's a new building, if you have garage, so too expensive. So that's why the outskirts are growing so much. Look at the buildings. Most part of the buildings here on your right date back from the early 20th century, late 19th century, in Art Nouveau, Art Deco style. So very bright colors. So look left and right. Bright blue, yellow, pink tiles covering the facade. This is very typical in my country. It's funny, Brazil used to be a Portuguese colony. This fashion started in Brazil in the 1700s. Our immigrants there, they discovered that if they would cover the facades with tiles, that would protect the inside, insulate the inside, and protect from the humidity. When they returned back, they brought the fashion with them. Well, cost you a little bit more, but you don't have to paint every 5 years. These tiles are here for more than 100 years, and they still look new. Another typical from the architecture are the iron balconies. Now, I want your attention to the left-hand side of the bus. You're going to see a white gate, some Hebrew letters written there. It's written in Hebrew, the gates of hope. And behind those gates you see a building, a white building. That's Lisbon's synagogue. Dates from 1904. 1904 we were still a monarchy. And during those days, when we were a monarchy till 1910, we had an official religion, Roman Catholic religion. From 1910 we started with the Republic, and we separated the church from the state, but not in 1904. So we authorized other religions, but they could not do or build at that time their temples on the main avenue. That's why you have a gate, a courtyard, and in the courtyard you have the synagogue. If you were in another section of the city, you would see the mosque, and the mosque is on the main avenue. Why? Because it dates back from the 21st century, so that law does not exist anymore. If you want to build a synagogue today, or doesn't matter which temple, you can make it on the main street, but not in 1904. Now, this is Ratto Square. As we move forward, I would like you to look to your right. Behind the pink building, you're going to see trees and the big white building. And behind the building you will see arches. These are the last arches of the aqueduct. The aqueduct has 58 kilometers long, finishing in this building. We call the building the Mother of Water. It's a big water reservoir. Keep looking to your right, you'll see the arches of the aqueduct and the building. From that building, a pipeline system, we distributed the water through the different public fountains in the city. The aqueduct was inaugurated in 1748, so only after that we were able to live on this area that we are crossing now. Before we couldn't, there was no water. This neighborhood, we call it Estrela, and the name comes from a basilica. For those in front, you can start seeing ahead of you the dome from the basilica. That basilica is related to the palace that we are going to visit later on our optional tour, Globus Palace. That basilica dates from 1783 and was made by a vow of a queen, Queen Mary. She got married, this is our gossip moment in the morning, she got married with her uncle. Unbelievable, and she wanted a baby, but years were passing and no babies. So she decided to confess her sins to her priest. Just a second, this is the navigator that discovered Brazil, Cabral, in 1500. So she confessed, she asked her priest to help her, and imagine, she got pregnant. Miracles happen. So to accomplish her vow, she built a basilica. Here to your right, you have the British cemetery, and you have an Anglican church inside. In the 1700s, we had an important British community living in this hill, so they were not Roman Catholics. They needed their own cemetery. And this church, this Anglican church, still gives masses in English every Sundays. On your left, we are going around. This was the first public garden of the city. Get the name of the neighborhood, Estrela, that means star, the name of the basilica. So for those who are in the back, you haven't seen it yet, but it's coming up ahead of us to the left-hand side, the Estrela Basilica, a great example of our Rococo and Neoclassic style. The basilica is also the mausoleum for Queen Mary. I'm going to talk a lot about her in the Globus Palace, since it was a palace built for her. In the main facade of the basilica, you can see the four cardinal virtues of the Roman Catholic Church: force, justice, temperance, and prudence. And if you see that attached to the basilica, you have this yellow building. This used to be a convent for Carmelites, no more. In 1834, we were completely in bankruptcy, so someone came up with the idea, let's take the richness from the religious orders. So we abolished the religious orders. Monks had to go. The nuns, they could still stay till the last of them would die. But no more nuns, no more monks since 1874. Now, when we say basilica, church, cathedral, for those who are not Roman Catholics, sometimes can be a little messy. What the hell they call this different things? It's not because of the building, it's because of the person inside. Okay? So if you have a priest, doesn't matter how big it is, the church. There's only a priest. We call it church. Okay? If you have a bishop or a cardinal, we call cathedral. The cathedral word comes from the Greek cathedra, means the seat of the bishop. It can be a tiny little church. There's a bishop, we call it cathedral. Okay? Basilica, it's the church of the Pope. Only the Pope can give that title to a church. Okay? Imagine, Pope Francis comes to Lisbon. He wants to celebrate a mass. If he wants to use the cathedral, although he's the big boss, he needs permission from the bishop. But if there's a basilica in town, it's his church, he doesn't need to ask for permission. So that's why in a lot of countries you have, besides cathedrals, basilicas. You go to Rome, where the Pope is, there are so many basilicas because each pope chooses one church to become his church. Okay? Now you know the difference. Very easy. So next guy that will start talking you about cathedral, basilica, you know why. Now we are taking this avenue that will take us to the riverfront. We call the Infante Santo. We used to have very old neighborhoods here, but in the 1940s we destroyed them and we rebuilt. So these buildings, especially the ones on the left, they were built in those days, and they use a style that internationally was known by the international style. Look at the tiles on the staircases to go up. My favorite ones are these ones here, the colorful houses of Lisbon. Well, the architects at the time, they wanted to demonstrate that the buildings could be sustained just by little pillars. This one here is dedicated to the street vendors. Next one to the fishermen, because this used to be a fisherman's neighborhood, Madrodoa. There's still one more panel, but this last one was added in 2017. But they decided to imitate the blue tiles from the 1700s. That's our golden period for the tiles. We love tiles. We start importing tiles from Spain, produced by Moorish artists in the 1400s, and then we started to produce our own tiles, and we continue till our days. So if you go, for instance, to the metro stations, that's where you have the contemporary tiles. So this one's coming on our left-hand side. We decided to celebrate the 1700s when the blue porcelain from south of China was arriving to Portugal and influenced us on the tiles. The cobalt blue made us build tiles just in white and blue. Well, if you haven't seen enough tiles, there's more coming up. These next ones from 2001, made by an artist that already died, Eduardo Neri. This was the first tile panel from the 21st century. So the artist, he wanted to break with the patterns, and he decided to make very colorful tiles, like all the colors of the rainbow here. And now we are reaching the riverfront. Our river is an international river. It's born in Spain and meets the ocean here near Lisbon. In Spain they call it Tajo. In Portugal we call it Tejo. The British word is Teigues. So whenever you are in my city and you are facing the river, you are facing south. And we are now crossing a neighborhood from the 1800s, where the Industrial Revolution took place. For instance, to your right, this used to be a factory. It's a very good example of restoration. Now there are apartments and lofts. The building to your left now, it's a museum. The Orient Foundation used to be a warehouse to dry the codfish. The next building coming ahead of us at 1 o'clock. This is a new hospital, just opened in 2020, just that time to COVID. And old industrial neighborhood of Alcântara to the right. Ahead of you, the bridge, the first bridge we built to cross the river here in Lisbon. It was built and inaugurated in 1966, 15th of August, and it was called Salazar's Bridge, the name of our dictator. So when the revolution took over, the 25th of 1974, 25th of April, made no sense to continue to call Salazar's Bridge, so we gave the date of the revolution. If you can see, there's a passage under the bridge for the train, for commuter trains. That was added in 1999. And when you look at this bridge, reminds you maybe another bridge in the world, Golden Gate, yeah, because it was built by an American company. We have this issue with earthquakes, so we wanted someone specialized in building bridges that could resist earthquakes. So we choose United States Steel Corporation from Pittsburgh. But they did not build the Golden Gate. They built another bridge in San Francisco. You know which one? The Bay Bridge, Oakland Bay Bridge. It's the color that gives you the idea of the Golden Gate. On the other side, you can see the statue of Christ the Redeemer. We call it Christ the King. That was a vow of our cardinal. If Portugal would not enter the Second World War, he would offer this statue to us. He was visiting Brazil when they did that vow. So we decided to copy the Corcovado Prize. It was inaugurated in 1959. And now we are leaving Alcântara behind, crossing another neighborhood called Junqueira. This is a neighborhood from the 1700s, and in that time this was outside of Lisbon. Coming up at your right-hand side, you're going to see a very long yellow building. This was the former rope factory from the 1700s, where we used to produce the cables for the ships. That's why the building is so long. Still belongs to the Navy, but today is not a factory anymore. Today is used for temporary exhibitions. Now we're going to arrive to Beleme. That's the most monumental area of my city, and there's lots of museums around here. The first one is coming up at 11 o'clock. You can see a rooftop at the top. This museum was one of the last ones being built in Lisbon. It's called MAT, Museum of Art, Architecture and Technology. The building coming after it in bricks with 4 chimneys. This was a power plant. Today is the Electricity Museum. Now you're at your 11 o'clock. And coming up at 1 o'clock, there's a white building. That's the Carriage Museum. We used the riding school of the Palace of Beleme, but then in the 21st century we decided to build a newer and bigger museum to put all the carriage collection. So we moved them into the building to your right. Now we official are in the Beleme district, and in this district it's where our president lives. He has his palace, his official residence. Our president's name is Marcelo Rebelo de Souza, but he lives in Cascais, where we're going to have lunch during the optional tour. We can elect a president, we elect for 5 years, and he can be re-elected just one more time. So he's already finishing his second time. Next year we're going to vote for new president. So in America you have the White House, in Lisbon we have the Pink House. Look to your right, that's the official residence. The president is not there yet, still sleeping. Remember, he lives in Cascais, he comes here and he uses the palace to work. Unless he works till late and then he sleeps there, most part of the time he returns back to Cascais. This used to be the royal palace, but since 1910 became the president's residence. To your left, coming up at 11 o'clock, you have the monument to the discoveries. You don't need to take pictures from the bus. We are going there. Okay, we're going to stop here. To your right, you have Geronimo's monastery. Same thing. We are going there too to see it from the outside. But before coming back to these two places, we are going to do a little stop near the symbol of my city. You know, you go to Paris and you need a picture of the Eiffel Tower to prove that you've been there. You go to London, you need the Big Ben. You go to Australia, you need Sydney, you need the Opera House. You go to America, you need New York, the Statue of Liberty. So if you come to my city to prove that you have been here, you need to take a picture with our symbol, the Beleme Tower. Beleme Tower dates from 1515, already celebrated 500 years of existence. Where we are now, this is reclaimed land. After the earthquake, we reclaimed all this land to the river. With all the ruins of the buildings, we throw them to the river and we reclaim land. So when this tower was built in 1515 by two brothers, two architects, Diogo, not our driver, and Francisco Arruda, by order of King Manuel, the tower was right in the middle of the river, completely surrounded by water. Well, we reclaimed all this land. Today the tower is attached by a little bridge to the mainland. At the same time, we built two other towers to form like a triangle. So if ships were attacking Lisbon, we could use the cannons and avoid them to enter the estuary of the Tejo River. Well, with the earthquake, the other two fortresses were destroyed, but the Beleme Tower survived. And the real name, it's not Beleme Tower, it's Bastion of Saint Vincent. But I doubt if you ask to a local if he knows it by that name. Nickname is Beleme Tower, that's how we all call it. So we're going to stop the bus, and all together we go there to take our picture to prove that we have been here. So once we are outside the bus, I'm going to use the radios, the whispers, okay?